Welcome to the Rewards Master. Today we're going to go through and I'm going to share what I think are the best points programs in each category, including what's the best domestic airline points program, what's the best international airlines points program, what's the best hotel points program, and what is the best transferable points program. So we're going to go through these one by one, and a lot of it will be opinion, but you may agree or disagree. I'd love to hear down in the comments. But as we get started, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's dive in. As we look at each of these categories, it would be pretty easy just to go on the points guide. In fact, they just published again here this month on what their point valuations are. But to me, that doesn't really paint the whole picture, because I can tell you, after traveling for work for years with domestic programs and then now traveling overseas many times for vacation and just for leisure, when using international programs, staying in many hotels, and then having most of the transferable point programs, I can tell you that it's not just about what the actual point value is, because people travel different. Now, this is going to be heavily influenced by our travel style, which is we have a budget that we put aside for travel. So we try to use our points at more of a maximum value. We try to use them for the best deal that we can. So we're not looking for just making every flight for free. If it's cheap, we're just going to pay for it. And generally, if it's domestic and if it's in coach, if it's in economy, not in business or kind of premium economy, we're gonna just pay for that. So that's kind of our unique style. Some people do it different. They want to make all of their travel be for free, and that's not a bad idea, but it's kind of hard to save up your points for really aspirational trips that way. So this is going to be really influenced by that particular style of travel. So what I'm looking for is what in this points program, not just what's its general value according to the points guy and others, because they're looking across the entire program. They're examining, yes, what are the business class points like? What are the premium economy, and what are the economy domestic flights like? And they kind of average it all together to get a points value. Well, if you're picking and choosing, then you're going to get more than that value. So like, for instance, with United, they may say 1.3 or 1.4 cents. But if you're using that for Saver Award for business class flights, it's going to be more like 3, 4, 5, 6 cents a piece. And with American, that's true as well. Now with Delta, not so much. So we're going to kind of examine it from that. I'm also going to look at ease of use. These programs, some of them are just hard. And some of them, their websites don't work good. Their customer service doesn't work good. If you need to cancel or change something, it's really hard. So I'm going to try to factor that in as well. And like I said, it's going to ultimately be my opinion, and yours may very well differ. And I'd love to hear your reasons why down in the comments. So let's dive into it. First of all, we look at domestic airline programs. Now, this is going to include the biggest airlines in the world: Delta, American, United, and also kind of some smaller players that are based in the United States. Things like JetBlue, things like Frontier, I guess Spirit would fit in there. Southwest would, but they're not really going to be in consideration because they don't have any partners. You can't really get outsized value from it. So which one has the best points as far as for aspirational travel? Which one is most useful? Well, I think all of the apps, and I've flown a lot with Delta, American, and United, and all of their apps are pretty good. I understand I haven't flown really with JetBlue, but I understand theirs are pretty good too. And JetBlue is kind of a contender because their Mint product has some pretty good redemptions. But I think overall, we have to look at those big three. And when we do that, I'm going to remove Delta from the mix. I have hardly ever had a points redemption that I found on Delta that I thought was a great value. Now, I found some that I thought were okay values for especially domestic economy travel. The other day we booked something on Delta, like 20,000 points each to go across the country. one way, and that's okay, but it's not certainly anything to get excited about. So I'm going to remove Delta from it. So that leaves American and United. Now United, they would really be a contender if they hadn't went through their devaluation. I think it was early last year. And that's when you could get, and we got a Polaris business class flight to Europe that was like 60,000 points. And that was a great deal. But they've changed it. Now they're 88,000, sometimes 80,000. And even when you're trying to book last minute, that's about as cheap as it's going to get. So that's not bad. That's pretty good. But American, wow, American, even the points guy says their points are worth more, but I think his number is just way lower than what I would consider them worth. American, you're going to oftentimes, you're going to get business class tickets on partners for a really good price. Sometimes like 80 or 90, sometimes like 60, and some of their weird routes, like if they don't start in the United States, like Middle East, Qatar Q suites for like 42,000 points. I mean, that's amazing for a flight that's multiple thousands of dollars and one of the best business class products in the world. You can even get Etihad apartments. Now you have to be flying to the right place and from the right place, but last minute, you can get those for like 62,000 points. And you get your own apartment, that's a $10,000+ trip. So I think overall, and I have to throw this in there too, even on domestic travel, and I fly American a lot, I look at this a lot, their points are pretty valuable, especially close in. I often see flights across the country. Like I said, we booked a Delta, it was 20,000 points. On the same day, I just didn't want to use my American, so I didn't do this. I wanted to save them. I don't care about using my Delta. On that same day, I could have booked that same flight on American, or basically the same times, for 10,500 points. So you're getting the same product, and you're getting it half the price. So I give the win in the domestic airline point value. Now, that doesn't mean their product's the best. I think most people would agree that Delta, you're getting a better flying experience. But as far as point value, the winner to me, hands down, is American Airlines. Now, when it comes to international programs, then it gets harder. It gets harder because you got to factor in things like cancellation fees, change fees, because most of them have them. And that just kind of throws a whole mix into it. You also got to factor in ease of use. All three of those big boy United States programs have really good apps and really good cancellation policies. But boy, it's hit or miss when it comes to international airlines. So things like, Avianca has really good point redemptions. But man, dealing with their system is just like a nightmare. So that has to kind of be factored in there. And if you need customer service, well, good luck. Aeroplan, that's a really good program, and I think it's a contender for this. But it has cancellation fees like pretty much all the international programs do. And, their customer service is only open like during the day in Canada, which if you're overseas, that can be a problem if you need help. Then you have things like Air France. Air France is really a good one, and I like it because, man, they've got some really good point redemption. I mean, like 50,000 points in business class over the pond to Europe. But again, you're dealing with cancellation fees. You're dealing with, I've known folks who had their flights just canceled out of the blue. Sometimes customer service isn't the best. And finding those awards, I mean, you look on their site and the difference is like, one day you'll find a flight for 50,000 points in business class, and another day it's 1.3 million points. I mean, where's the rhyme or reason to that business? So how do I decide? Well, I think overall, I would not give it to anything like a British Airways because, yeah, their points price, it's pretty much, if you buy it with American, 57,500 points every time to go in business class, but $700 or $800 in taxes and fees. Oh, a little trick though is I do find those close in for more like $150 or $200 if it's like in the next few days. So keep that in mind. So I can't really consider BA a contender. Things like Iberia. Iberia has just incredible point prices sometimes, like 30, we've done that before, 34,000 points in business class. And people don't really brag on their business class, but I flew it and I thought it was great. But the problem is like Iberia, I mean, their cancellation fees are just like all of your points sometimes. I mean, it's just atrociously bad if you book with partners and stuff. So it's really, really hard. I think I'll give the win though here to Aeroplan. Aeroplan has some cool things like a 5,000 point stopover on your trip if you call them and ask for it. That's really a good feature. And consistently when I look, I can find business class flights for about 70,000 points between Europe and the United States. So you may disagree. Let me know if there's a better one because I want to know about it. But I think Aeroplan, their Air Canada system has really the best overall point value of any of the international airlines. The next category is hotel points. And here we're looking at things like, you know, we probably won't consider the obscure ones like Accor, but you got Wyndham points, you've got things like Choice Hotels, but really the ones people consider the most would be kind of the big boys of Marriott, Hyatt, and Hilton. And I pretty much have points in most of those, and I've used them all a lot. Well, this is an easy category because there's just no question. When it comes to redeeming points, there's really no contender. Hilton points are worth about half a cent, 0.6 cents per point, and that's pretty consistent across the board. You can find it up to 1 cent per point if you stay in their really high dollar places. And I use Hilton a lot. I'm a Hilton Diamond because of our Aspire card, and I use them a lot, and I like them. We love Conrad's and Waldorf Astorias. So, but the program, the points aren't worth that much. When it comes to a Marriott, theirs are kind of the same thing. They're worth a little bit more. But Marriott's are really inconsistent as far as some of them, if you have status, they'll give you free breakfast. Some of them won't, this, that, or the other. And, you know, 0.8 cents per point, that's not all that great. Sometimes, again, you can get up over 1 cent per point, but not all that often. But I think most would agree, and this will be probably the least contested of all of my calls, and that is Hyatt is the grand champion when it comes to hotel point value. Now, they've been doing some things that frustrate a lot of people lately, but still, especially overseas, you see some pretty good places to stay that are category 1s or category 2s, and you can sometimes get those for like 3,500 points, 5,000 points, 7,500 points, and you to stay in a comparable Hilton, you're 40,000 points, or a Marriott to be close to that too. So I think the grand champion in this, without question, is Hyatt and their point system. Now we come to transferable currencies. And I think my pick in this, I don't even really want to pick it because it's harder to earn the points, but my pick in this will be kind of controversial. But when you're looking at this, we're looking at things like Wells Fargo, City Points, which I have a lot of City Points. They're one of my favorite programs, but we're looking at things like Capital One and their Capital One miles, American Express membership rewards points, and of course, Chase Ultimate Rewards points. And all of those are kind of big players in this. You know, they're big credit card issuers. A lot of people have their cards rack up a lot of points. They all have transfer partners. That has to factor into it as well. American Express has the most, but if you wanted to cash those out for cash, it's not very good value unless you have like the Charles Schwab Platinum or something like that. Citi and Wells Fargo, you can cash in at 1 cent per point, but Citi's transfer partners aren't quite as good. I like them fine, but they're not quite as good. They don't have any domestic partners. And Wells Fargo, their partner list is extremely small. When you look at things like Capital One, again, not great value if you cash them out. You can like do a purchase eraser at 1 cent piece, but that's kind of a niche way to use it. But when it comes to their transfer partners, again, they're kind of like Citi. They've got some good international partners, but not really any good domestic partners. And when it comes to Chase, now they're the one that I think most would choose. And I'm just so torn. I want to choose Chase is the best transferable currency program because, man, it is not hard to rack up lots of Chase points, either by spending on their cards or their welcome bonuses if you play the 524 game well. And their points are worth a lot because, I mean, they have one transfer partner that's great, which is Hyatt. And you can transfer over to that. You can transfer over to United if you need it. I've done that a lot for aspirational trips. You can transfer to Southwest. They've got a long list of foreign partners. And their points, even the points guy says their points are worth a lot. But I have to say, even though it disappoints me to say it, because I don't really rack up a lot of points because I'm not a renter, but the best points program, I think, of the transferable points programs is Built. And the reason I think that is because their points, they have great value because they also have Hyatt. They also have good transfer partners. Now they have Alaska, which is a really good points program. But when it comes to their value, those transfer bonuses on rent day are just nuts. They're so good. I mean, to be able to get 75% bonus, 100% bonus, 150% bonus, depending on your status with Built, that's just unheard of. It's just off the charts. And so I don't rack up a lot of Built points. I hope that they offer mortgages like they've said they're going to, and then I'll rack up more. But the ones I have, I save them for a transfer bonus. And so whether it's Air France or any of the others that they sometimes do, I try to use those. So I know that's a very controversial one and not one that you can rack up a lot of points in, everybody, but when it comes to just the value of the points, I think we have to factor that in, and I give the win to the Built program and their points value. So I'd love to hear, I'm certain that many of you are going to see it differently, and I'd love to hear why. So put that down in the comments below. But whatever it is, whichever points program you use, hopefully you use more than one so that you have options. But whichever one you use, they all are great value. And this is just an incredible hobby that I hope you love just as much as I do. So put your comments down below. Please hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll see you here next time.